Welcome to the Voice of College Football. I am one of your post-game hosts, Desmond. I've got my partner Dre here with us, and also Mark Rogers with us as well. Before we get started, definitely join the Voice of College Football, the Discord, as well as subscribe to Mark's Patreon page as well. We are here every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and also in the fall once Michigan post game, myself and Dre usually are on every week and talking about the Wolverines. So that is it. Make sure also like and subscribe and share the video out on social media. So Dre, how we doing today, my friend?
Good, good. Another week. Just inching closer and closer towards you know, summertime and weather breaking, and already thinking about football.
See, looks like you have a polo on, so that is very fitting for our Michigan weather today. I think we hit like 60 something, or maybe high 50s today. So it was a pretty warm day today.
A day that I would like to replicate. Absolutely. If I could have this if I could have something like this as we get towards the summer, I'll take it.
Agreed. Agreed. Mark, how we doing today?
We're good, and we do not have polo shirt weather here in Connecticut. Haven't for a while. Had some early spring, some nice little 65-degree days, but not today. Maybe it's coming. Maybe it's coming.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you'll get our warm weather tomorrow or the next day. I wonder if that,
It's usually how it works. Yeah.
yeah, perfect. Okay. So I'm going to pose a question to our listeners. As everybody is coming on in, definitely let us know what city you're tuning in from, and we will kind of start talking about our weekend. I'm sure my partner Dre does not want to talk about it,
Oh, I
but
forgot about that.
that's definitely something we got to kick off with. So
Oh,
this
yeah.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I mean I'm not going to run from it. Des, as we told our listeners, Des and I, we're going to meet up past weekend and play some basketball, and we did. And first, we watched a little bit NCAA basketball. They watched the tournament, and then the following day we went to go, play some basketball, and we played 1-on-1, and he beat me, and it was fun. Um, I'm not happy about it. I'm an extremely competitive person, but yeah, I'm not going to hide from that. I'm not going to deny people the truth of the interaction. So, but I'm not happy about it at all.
What I will say is being as close of friends as Dre and I are. Dre actually is really good at basketball, really good.
Oh, thank
Dre's
you so
biggest
much.
issue is Dre talks as if he is like a mixture of LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Michael Jordan.
I
That's
wish.
really the biggest. That's the biggest issue with Dre is that if he didn't really talk junk and talk smack and just came out and played, you'd be like, holy cow, he's really good. But Dre talks like he is like untouchable. Nobody can touch me. I think that's the biggest.
Hey, half the battle is your mentality, man. So I try to take a winner's mentality. Same thing I bring with same mentality I take when it comes to Michigan football. Either you're winning or you're losing. There's no in between, and you go in there with confidence, and but you don't go in there being cocky and relying on history. I don't rely on history. I rely on in my abilities and what I
Mm,
think I can do. So.
I don't know. I
Uh,
think you might rely on a little history.
I don't know about that. Not like my fellow Michigan fans do at times, in which we're talking about you know accolades that happened before color television. So, just saying. You see, I don't. Sometimes, like, I mean, you're not a Michigan fan. No, no. Part of being like loving who you are is being able to laugh at yourself. I'm a Michigan fan, and I can laugh at the good and bad perceptions of being a Michigan fan.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. The self awareness is definitely a good thing, And I feel like no matter how much self awareness that you have, everybody can always improve on that because it's a tough thing to really grasp. So
The real question is, do are Ohio State fans really self-aware? But and you know, and I'm not a psychologist by no means, or psychiatrist that either. But when you've won so much compared to someone else, well, in recent history, is it hard to maintain that, self-awareness and sense of reality and humbleness in a way when you've won so much? I mean, I think Alabama. That's what I think. What's making made Nick Saban's run to Alabama so incredible is that his ability throughout, different classes and to be able to bring kids into his program and essentially create a culture in which they feel like they haven't earned anything. Well, they haven't themselves, but like they attack every season with a sense of hunger, as if the previous season didn't happen. And I think that's what's remarkable. And I don't know if Ohio State is able to do that, has done that, or has it just been that they've been better? You know what I'm saying? Because they haven't won a title. Like I think Alabama with being a national champion and to continue to stay at that level, I think it's just incredible.
true. Mark, as being surprisingly and ironically an Ohio State fan, do you feel like yourself, and maybe let's not say yourself, your fan base, do you feel like your fan base is self-aware? Because sometimes it's easier to talk about if you remove yourself from it. So do you feel like your fan base is aware,
Are those
self-aware?
Ohio State fans over there? Are they self-aware? Let me think. Let me think about the feedback I get and what I hear out of those people. Uh, See, I have my slant on any fan base is that I never tag any fan base with being smarter than other fan bases, more delusional than other fan bases, more crazy, more rabid, more anything. I just think there's all those elements in every fan base. I think you can find your reasonable fans, your delusional fans, your crazy fans, your rabid fans, your
Bandwagon.
unrealistic fans in every fan base.
That's very true, and I think it's a scale essentially, like a if it was a bar graph, if I'm saying that correctly. But if all 100% of the fans are just in the straight line, the one end there's 20% of those fans that think this is our year, national championship. We're going undefeated. No one can stop us. It's happening. Then you have on the
Ah,
opposite end you have the 20% that is just jaded no matter what fan base they're part of. Just, I'm sick of this. We need a new coach, we need a new quarterback, we need to run the spread, or we need to run the ball more, we need to run a 3-3-5 defense or 4-3, whatever, the issues and complain. And that's a total of 40%. And then you've got the 60% for most fan bases that are pretty reasonable, that just say
you don't have a
this is
choice.
this is what we look like.
They don't have a choice, Desmond, because like
Oh, everyone's
I
got a
mean,
choice.
no, 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 no. I mean, like it just based on who you're a fan of, you just know at the end of the day, like there's certain expectations. Like, yeah, we're not ever going to win a national title. Like, if you're a Purdue Boilermaker fan, there will never be an occasion in which you wake up into a year like, this is the year we go all the way. Like it's just not going
Well,
to
they
happen.
had Kyle Orton. I mean, they Taylor Stubblefield. That they had a pretty good year. I mean, I think they might have
Uh,
been 2 or 3 losses, but that's still better
I
than
don't
what they've been
care.
in a
I
long
do
time.
not care. You would never be as a Purdue boy making. You know what? If this happens, this happens. I think we can win a national title. It will never happen. Okay. If you're a Vanderbilt, what are they? The Commanders? What is Vanderbilt?
Commodores.
Commodores. Thank you. If you're a Vanderbilt Commodore alum or fan, you're not saying, you know what? Maybe if Alabama loses their starting quarterback and Alabama and Georgia lose their starting quarterback, maybe there's a window in which we can win an SEC title. It doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. So my point is that yeah, part of that percentage comes down. Well, a big part of it is due to the fact that some fans know what their reality is, even if they are homers. They can paint themselves as a Boilermaker. And they still know they're not going to going. They're probably not going to win the Big Ten. So it is what it is. I think that no, I don't think every fan base is like that. I think that there are special fan bases that are that polarizing. And granted, Mark has a better understanding of that than me because he's dealing with all those various fan bases. I just find it very hard to believe. I think, like, for example, I felt personally attacked when Mark was saying that because he described essentially a Michigan fan base. Because we really are that polarizing, and I think part of that is due to the fact that you know we're in this weird space when it comes to Michigan football, in which we have a rich historic, right, quote unquote, tradition of winning. Um, and so that has created a sense of entitlement and pride. However, we haven't had the recent success, but we still have a huge brand. Like, we're one of the most recognized college brands in the world. And then we have a head coach who's extremely polarizing and recognizable, right? So it's like this weird stew in which it creates these factions in the fan base that some have unrealistic expectations, some are about where they are to be, some are too low because they're more on the way, like I can be at times. So I think that there are special situations like that. I think USC probably is like that. I think Miami. I'll be very interested to see what the Miami Hurricane fan base is like. I think there are certain special fan bases that are a little bit more polarizing.
I'm still gonna fall in the camp of 20-60-20. I think
I
I think
didn't know
that's
that.
I just think that it's with every fan base, I think. And maybe, it's not 20% on the top end. Maybe it's 30%. And maybe the bottom tier of the sky is falling is a smaller percentage. But I still feel the same way. Because like you said, with Michigan, you feel like they're very polarizing. Even of the teams Texas, even 2 years ago before they got Steve Sarkisian, I'm sure they came into the last season and the year before thinking, we're going to beat Oklahoma. We're going to win the Big 12, and we're going to win the national championship. I truly think there. Now, maybe it's not the overwhelming majority that thought that, but there was definitely a portion of Texas fans that felt that way. Clemson, and maybe they're a bad example because they've won it recently, but LSU fans, I think with even what they lost and all the turmoil they dealt with, this past season, they were 5-5 last year, 2 years ago. And then coming into this past season, I think they still felt like they were going to win a national championship. Like we know what it takes to beat Alabama. We're going to do it this year. We're going to win the SEC West. We're going to beat Georgia, and we're going to win the SEC. We're going to win a national championship. I think those groups of fan bases exist in just about every single fan base.
Well, I'll be sure. If we ever take a trip to down to Bloomington, Indiana, we'll ask the Hoosier fan base about their expectations to win the Big Ten in 2022. We'll do that. You know.
What you'll at least here's what you'll hear from at least one person. Well, if we can get that quarterback set, I mean, you see what we did a couple years
They
ago.
lost Michael Penix, didn't they? Didn't Michael Penix transfer? I saw he transferred. Didn't he transfer? What did they hit the transfer for?
He's on to Washington. Yep.
Yeah.
They've got
So,
the Missouri quarterback, Connor Baslick. He's the new quarterback at IU. Let's see, most of those quarterbacks, or most of those schools, LSU, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. There's a couple more, maybe. I think they have every reason to believe that they should win a national championship any season.
True. What
there's
about
five schools. There are 5 schools tops that have a chance to win a national title every year. 5.
Well, I don't mean a chance. I mean like a legitimate, and then I would tack on Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State, and a couple others as well.
And Ohio State, right?
With a lot of things. What's that?
And you put Ohio State in that group, right? Or do you have them in that tier?
Ohio
5?
State's in the other group.
That'd be in tier 1. Ohio State would be in tier 1.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I
Nice.
consider Ohio State above everybody but Alabama, and we'll see what Georgia can continue to do.
Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, you guys haven't won a national title since 2014.
Dre, be careful now what you're what you're saying,
I'm
because
sorry.
think
You're
it.
right. You're right.
I
You're
mean,
right.
you,
Let
you
me not
remember
play
the
with fire.
self-awareness talk we had a little while ago?
I'll go back into my. Let me go back into my hood. I'm
Because
sorry.
what I would say is being in the middle of you two is what I would say is
Literally, you are in the
the
middle.
right. Literally, I'm in the middle. Is the Michigan just had a historic season, and that's basically the I don't want to say basically the floor for Ohio State, but I mean that's the season is just starting when Ohio State gets there to the college
Ohio,
football playoff.
Ohio State just missed the playoff last year, and they had a bad season. There is no one that even reasonable Ohio State fans. I have a Ohio State show I just did a few hours ago. Those guys are reasonable guys. They're beat writers. One of them just in the course of a conversation, he wasn't even making a point, said, we're coming off a bad season, da 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 da. Bad season. Number 5 in the country, won the Rose Bowl. Bad season. Last time they played Clemson, they beat them down by 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a better program than all those others. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, whatever order you want to put it in. I'll put Ohio State at the back of that 3-team line right now.
Yeah, and I don't think that is an unreasonable thought process, because like I said, I mean, essentially for Ohio State, the assumption is winning the Big Ten and getting to the college football playoff, and I would agree if you don't get there, that is correct. That's a bad season because in your because of the talent that you have, we should be there. We should be there, and I absolutely agree with that. So, Drake, did you want to respond to what Mark said?
I cut out for a second, so can you give me a synopsis of what you said, Mark?
Well, I just say basically, okay, put Alabama aside. They've won the championships. They've completed it. Actually, Ohio State's got just as good a record on the field in wins and losses as Alabama does in the last 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But obviously, Alabama's made more playoffs, won more championships. So they're number 1, without a doubt. Even Georgia winning this last year, in my eyes, says that Alabama's still number 1. They were within 5 minutes of winning another one. Georgia, you could go back and forth in my estimation, my perspective between Georgia and Ohio State. And then I think, you bring up those other teams and those other programs like LSU. Sure, LSU's won a national championship since Ohio State, but there's no comparison between those two programs as they stand right now.
Clemson? Clemson's won 2.
Ohio State's so much better than LSU. They're not even comparable. LSU had a spike year, but Joe Burrow doesn't play at LSU. Joe Brady doesn't run the offense.
Right.
They're not the same program. It's a completely different program. Now they've got the resources and abilities to get back. They're full in on football. They'll be good again. I don't put Clemson. I think Clemson, Ohio State, I think it's a decent debate, but Clemson doesn't play the kind of competition Ohio State plays year to year. And the last time they played, they got beat down by 4 touchdowns. I just think Ohio State's a better program than Clemson, not by miles, but it's a better program. They recruit on a higher level.
Sure. I mean, look, I'm mostly poking fun. I know Ohio State is still. I've said it. I've been consistent with that. I know Ohio State is on another level than Michigan, but I think Ohio State is in this kind of weird. I think they're right in between of those tiers because they haven't been able to finish the job once they got into the big stage since 2014, but they're getting there. So they're getting there more consistently than Georgia has, right? So that's why, I think it's safe to say, Ohio State's above Georgia. But I think Clemson. I just think that you know Clemson is interesting because they're in this rare air where in this Saban domination, they've gone up against them twice, they've beaten them twice, head to head, and
They've gone against them 4 times.
well,
They beat
4
them
times.
twice.
Right? I'm forgetting the Kelly Bryant year. Well, hold on, they lost against Kelly Bryant.
They lost
Kelly
to
Bryant lost
Deshaun
against them.
Watson.
Deshaun Watson's first
No, I know.
national championship against.
Right. I'm just saying. So they won with Deshaun. They lost with Deshaun and won with Deshaun. Right. To Bama. And then they won with Trevor Lawrence, and then they lost with Kelly Bryant. Something like that. Right. So you're right. 4 times. Excuse me. But still, I don't know.
So with the playoff era, Ohio State and Alabama have played twice, and they split
1-1.
That is true. That is true. Even though that last time wasn't very competitive, but I'm not saying Michigan would have done any better. Case in point, how they did against Georgia. So, I don't want to split hairs there.
Well, I'd say too, there's something to be said with consistently getting there, and then also getting to the national championship, multiple times in the 7-8 year stretch. Like that's a very difficult thing to do. Not many teams have done that. So yeah, I mean, I agree with Mark. With Clemson, it'll be interesting to see how things go for them this year, because this will be the first year that Dabo is dealing with replacing coordinators, and really he's going to be the constant. He's going to be the one that continues the culture, and is he getting the coordinators correct, because that can make a very big difference. I mean, with just Alabama, Pete Golding's first year, the year, Alabama's most recent national championship, Pete Golding was getting drugged through the mud. I mean, they were talking he should be fired, and, Saban made a mistake having him there. And I remember specifically after, I believe it was the Ole Miss game, I mean, they gave up a lot of points, a lot of yards. So I say all that to say that it can be very difficult to, replace coordinators, especially when you think of, whatever you think of what Brent Venables will do at Oklahoma, what he did at Clemson was incredible with that defense, and same with Tony Elliott. I think Elliott more so had the personnel that was head and shoulders better than everyone else. I don't think his X's and O's were elite, but nonetheless, it's still difficult to replace coordinators. So, we'll see what happens with Clemson, but I'd probably side with Mark on that. As far as, I would say it's Alabama up there. I would say Ohio State. And I know Georgia had a historic year this past season and won the national championship. I'm not sure I'd put Georgia there. I mean, it might be blasphemy, it might be crazy, but they've been to the playoff. What was this past season was their second time, if I'm not mistaken.
Third time.
It was their third time. Okay.
Yeah. Twice. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say. So I thought it was
Oklahoma. Was that the year they lost to Bama? That was saying okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it was last year. So, I mean, I don't know.
I'm going to jump off, but before I do, I'm going to tell the real MVP. He left a comment in there about Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. The real MVP, bring that to my next call-in show. Give me a call, bring that comment, and we'll talk about it. Guys, have a great show.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I was trying to see where his comment was. Man, I'm behind. I wonder if it was this one. The gap between Alabama and Ohio State is closer than the gap between Ohio State and Clemson. What do you That's interesting. Yeah. Matthew puts McCarthy is better than McNamara. I hope y'all don't figure that out this season. Looks like he's got some Ohio State gear, but yeah, this comment, Dre, is McCarthy is better than McNamara. I hope y'all don't figure that out this season, though.
Preaching to the choir, man. No, we don't know. We don't know. I think
you don't think so. You don't think we know that?
Better in terms of production. We don't know that yet. I think we think he's a better talent, but that doesn't always equate to on the field production. Like there's different things that come into play besides arm talent and mobility in terms of how do you actually produce. The biggest I think is decision making, and I think that's something that that's Cade McNamara's um, biggest strength. It's just the decision making. I mean, what was it? He went how many passes? What was it? It was like an incredible amount of consecutive passes without interceptions. Now, granted, we know the first 4 weeks he was barely throwing the ball, but like I think his composure, his decision making, it is has been huge in him keeping this job. And with JJ, that's something that we just don't know yet. Like I mean, how does he handle pressure? Both on the field and also going into the games. You know, is he able to win a tough road game? We've seen now. Granted, he's a true freshman, young kid, but we've seen him make critical mistakes in a big game at MSU.
Hmm.
Like is he able to grow from that? You know, because let's say Cade McNamara wasn't on the roster. Like could JJ after essentially blowing the game at MSU, how would he have responded? Being the guy the rest of the season, would he have been able to keep? I mean, to win that game at Penn State, that was critical in Michigan. Staying on track to eventually going to win a Big Ten title. So those are things we just don't know about JJ McCarthy. Not saying that he can do it; he has all the ability to be able to do those things and more. But we have to actually see it before we can say definitively that he's a better quarterback than Cade McNamara.
Yeah, I would agree with initially, I thought you were off, but I think you explained that correctly and it swayed me. As far as we think we know, but until they get in, until they get on the field and start playing, we really don't know. So it'll be um, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the quarterback battle. Um, I wanted to kind of switch gears, and so on the Michigan channel, Mark had posted something on the Michigan channel, but essentially it was just saying for Michigan, do you think that they will be better or worse in 2022 than they were in 2021? I think it's a good question, and I do think it's probably a little premature just because spring ball is going to wrap up. You're going to have more guys in the transfer portal. Not saying they will be leaving Michigan, but potentially coming to Michigan. And then summertime and camp, and things aren't ironed out just yet with depth charts, things like that. But just based off of what we know now, what would be your initial thought on if Michigan will be better in 2022 than they were in 2021?
That's a tough question because I think best case scenario for this team, and I'm not going to dance around the question. Like I know sometimes I can do that. But I think it's a tough question because I think the best case scenario for Michigan would be that instead of last year where their biggest strength was their defense, this year they can possibly have the same results, but by fully utilizing their offense and their offense being their strength. So, and I think their offense has the capabilities and the personnel to do that. However, the loss of an Aiden Hutchinson, um, a Josh Ross, two local kids who were long tenured kids in your program, uh, fantastic leaders, not just good leaders, fantastic leaders. I do think that that's very hard to replace in one season. Um, you can't teach that experience, right? Um, Kids have got to go through that and then learn from it. So, because and granted, you have kids coming back like Donovan Edwards. You do have Ronnie Bell uh, coming back from an ACL injury. So I'm not saying that this team is devoid of veterans entirely, but I think that what made last year special was that we had special leadership. I think that was the number one thing. And I'm not so sure I can definitively say we have special leadership going into this season. Not yet. So, because I'm thinking that way, I'm going to say worse, but it doesn't mean bad, right? Let me be very clear. I'm not saying they're going to have a bad season. They can still have a solid to good season. But you're talking about a season in 2021 in which you won your conference and played in the playoffs. So worse could be winning 10, going 10-2, playing in the Sugar Bowl, right? But Ohio State wins the conference, right? 9-3, playing in the Capital One Bowl or whatever it is, still playing New Year's Six. You finally beat MSU, right? It still can be a successful season, a good season, not successful, but a good season, right? So I'll say worse, but I do believe it will still be a good season for the program.
Well, I think so. Michigan was 12-2, lost to Michigan State, and then lost their playoff game. Essentially, what you're saying is they would have to at least win a playoff game this year. I mean, in order for the year to be better, because I would argue, well, one loss is going to get you in the playoff, especially if you win your conference. So if you're a one loss team, you're gonna get in either way. So I just think it's going to be very difficult to win a playoff game. I think it's always difficult. I don't think this year is going to be different than last year. So I would say it will be worse just because of the hill that you have to climb, and then also I think you're still going to have to slay the giant like you slayed it last year with Ohio State. I think they're going to be motivated to, I mean, more so than they've ever been, just because you look at the success they've had recently in the rivalry, and they've still been motivated with that. But I think being the team that lost that streak, and you lost to Michigan, I think they're going to be absolutely dialed in. The game's going to be at home, if I'm not mistaken, so you're going to be in Columbus. It's not going to be easy. And but at the same time too, you look at it, if you're undefeated and your only loss is to Ohio State, you're probably going to get in, because at that point you'd have to be at worst case probably number 2, number 1 in the country.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I mean at that point.
Can I say something? I gotta say something. I'm getting very, very uncomfortable with this trend versus Mel Tucker. And I'm just saying, like as good as, I can't lie. I'll be lying if I said, man. And look, last year was magical. It was fantastic, but I still do have a sour taste in my mouth from losing against MSU again. I do, especially the way the game went. Being up, multiple possessions. You have the fumble, not fumble, right? And losing the way we did. I mean, and it's the fact that Mel Tucker's only been at East Lansing for 2 years. He's already 2-0 versus Harbaugh. That doesn't sit well with me. And like, seriously, Des. I mean, like, let's say Michigan goes 10-2, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking from the outside, you're like, okay, that's a good season. You didn't fall off the table from last year. You go 10-2, but you have 2 losses to Ohio State and MSU, and you go 0-3 versus Mel Tucker. And mind you, the game's in Ann Arbor this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I can't.
I'm losing your audio, Dre. Well, I can understand Dre's frustration. Let me see if I can get him back in. I lost your audio for a minute, Dre. Go ahead. So I mean, I can understand his frustration, and blank name saying that don't worry about Mel, he's a bum, it'll turn around. it may turn around, but I just can't call Mel Tucker a bum based on what he did in the first couple years there at Michigan State. Like I can't do that because to me, at the end of the day, the results matter, and he's even in that first year that was a mess. He had a late start to everything, was able to get into the transfer portal, get some talented guys in there, and great. They didn't have a great season, but they were able to just kind of put it together in the following season. So I don't think I could go there. I get it, the rivalry with Michigan and Michigan State, but I can't call Mel Tucker a bum. Just cannot do that. So Drake, go ahead, my friend.
So blank name saying don't worry about Mel, he's a bum. Look, man, look, I don't. How can you say that and the guy's undefeated versus us?
Right.
Like I
Well,
literally,
that makes Harbaugh look worse, right? Like you
it
you
does.
can't
Like
you can't beat a bum.
I know, and it's really ticking me off because it's like I don't even know like how to feel about it because do I don't know if Mel Tucker's a better coach than Jim Harbaugh. Like I don't think that he's going to lift Michigan State past Michigan overall like D'Antonio did, but you know I just don't. I think that and I know there are certain things about the way Mel is going about of changing MSU that kind of rubs people the wrong way. Like, oh my God, look at he can't recruit his own guys. He has to go around to the transfer portal, and like I think his way of attacking his strategy for building his program initially has kind of turned some people off on the outside. Um, but the results are the results, and I hate it, but it doesn't sit well with me. And it's to the point now where, like, I truly did think there's no way that MSU was going to be this last year. Like, I had 100% faith. I'm like, this is, this team is not good. They're playing a weak schedule, and we're about to expose them. And it looked like that initially, but, you saw, how they continued to come back in that game and they finished us off and then they finished their season off on a good note. I mean, they won what 10? They won 10 games, dude. I mean,
Hmm.
eh, I don't know. Do I believe that the way they went about it, like, would it be something that's easy? They can replicate. No, I think Kenneth Walker III was a once every 10-year fine. The way they got him in the transfer portal, but still, like I just don't think you could. It just doesn't sit well with me. It does, and I don't know if Harbaugh. I swear, man, if he loses against Mel again this year, I'm going to lose it. You can't keep doing that. Like, come on now, come on. You got to figure him out. Get it done. Get it done. I can't deal with it. I'm sorry.
Well, to me, the people who knock Mel Tucker for how he got the results, I really don't care how you make my 5-star dish. If it's a 5-star dish, then it's delicious. I really don't care if it's if you go vegan, if you go whatever all meat dish. It doesn't matter. Like it's if you want to argue if it's sustainable or not, then okay, we can argue that and we can debate that. But at the same time, I mean, I I think people are looking for a reason to discredit what he's doing at Michigan State versus just saying it just kind of is what it is. Like the results are the results. He had a 10-win season, last year. And Michigan finished what, number 5 in the final rankings. He beat the number 5 team in the country. It was at home, but nonetheless, that's a very difficult thing to do. So I don't know. I mean, if you want to talk about his past and what he did, Colorado wasn't great, and I get all that, but he's not at Colorado anymore. He's at Michigan State. So that's kind of how I look at, Mel Tucker and just what's going on. But yeah, if you go 3 years, that's that'll be rough. That'll be really rough.
Because it's just because you also got to think about too. But I mean, what D'Antonio was able to do while he was at MSU was not only beat Michigan, but he was able to turn the perception of what was the it school to go to, being a high-ranking kid in the state of Michigan. You start to see kids, who would have never picked MSU, over Michigan at one point in time. But D'Antonio started to dominate the rivalry. They're like, well, and Michigan's always recruited well. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, you start to see, some of those 4 or 5 star Michigan kids. Not really 5 star, but like Malik McDowell was a 5 star kid, from Southfield. And he ended up going to MSU. That's the type of kid that he either 15, 20 years ago, he either went out of state or he went to Michigan. Like he wasn't going to go to MSU over Michigan. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's something that, Harbaugh has to watch out for. Like you can't internally, in-house, in your state, you have to win your state.
Hmm.
Ohio State doesn't worry about that. They're not worried about the Ohio University of Ohio Bobcats. Okay.
Like,
They're
or
not,
Cincinnati, they're not
or
worried about.
Cincinnati.
No.
Yeah, not really. I mean, like, look, Cincinnati had a cute little season and all that stuff, but I don't think Ryan
Oh,
Day is too
that is aggressive.
fine. I'm sorry.
That's aggressive.
Very, they had a very good season. But I don't think at the end of the day that Ryan Day is just like, man, Luke Fickle, man, Luke's on our tail. Like,
No,
I don't think,
no, Ryan Day's
no, I
not
don't
thinking
think
that.
they're worried about that. So I'm
Mm-mm.
just saying, like, no, Michigan, you can't do that. Like, you can't sleep on this guy. For one, he has your number clearly right now, and if he continues to win, I mean, what is going to be your selling point? Like he's going to say, "Hey, look, they made it to the playoffs last year. We beat them, and we're trending up." You know, and I know I'm kind of creating a hypothetical situation with a mixed in facts with it, but you know, if you assume that Mel Tucker is how can I put this nicely? A easier talk conversation than Harbaugh would be, you know. And I
You
know
mean
head
you mean
coaches aren't
literally conversation, like easier person to
conversation.
talk to, or
Yeah,
what do
yeah,
you
yeah,
mean?
easier. I'm talking about like if Harbaugh, your recruit, Harbaugh's talking to you about coming to Michigan, Mel Tucker's talking to you about coming to MSU, and I know that head coaches aren't speaking with every recruit, but you're probably like, you know, man, that guy. Like, who are you coming off the conversation like, man, that was actually a pretty decent conversation, and the other one you're like, I don't know what we just talked about for an hour. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, like, make sure you take care of home, please, and it starts on the field. So that's one of my biggest. Like, I think one thing we're gonna roll out this year, guys. I'm excited for. We're gonna roll out what Michigan must top 5 things Michigan must do. They must accomplish this upcoming season. And one of those for me, a deal breaker, you have to beat Mel Tucker this year. You cannot go 0-3 versus Mel Tucker. Rules, calls, refs, be damned. You cannot go 0-3. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Can't
I
happen.
mean it makes it very it's tough because for Harbaugh's record against the rivals, I mean it would have been great to go 3-0 this past season. Because that starts to kind of balance things out a little bit because he has a pretty tough record against his rivals. But when you beat Penn State this year, you beat Ohio State, but then you lose to Michigan State, it's like it makes it difficult, it makes it tough.
Hey, Kenneth, let me ask you this, Kenneth. So, if I answer your question, I think Michigan's going to have the better season. But let's say Michigan goes 9-3, State goes 7-5, but one of those losses is to State. I still
That's
be
not
ticked. I'll
good.
be even more ticked off.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm
Because you
saying?
lost
Like,
to a five-loss team. Yeah.
yes. And it's like, hey, we had a better season. Yeah, we're 0-3 versus the head coach there, and yeah, I have to
So I,
hear
I
Spartan Stan's mouth.
yes, you will. So I looked up Michigan State's schedule. They've got Western, which obviously we saw Michigan play them. Out of conference is Western, Akron, and Washington, and it looks like it's at Washington if I'm not mistaken.
That's a
Then
juggernaut.
in con- in conference they go Minnesota, Maryland, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Then they have a bye week: Michigan, Illinois, Rutgers, Indiana, and Penn State. I mean, I don't know. I would say Gosh, I mean, I'm not saying that.
Peyton Thorne, if you believe in Peyton Thorne, Desmond, and you say Peyton Thorne is top four quarterback in the conference, you know, all right, well, and I could agree with that. You know, I think he definitely showed some promise last year. If Mel Tucker was able to get good, not even great, good quarterback play out of Peyton Thorne, I mean, if you in a Big Ten, especially for the top four in the East,
Mhm.
Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and MSU. Those are my top four in the Big Ten East every year, right? If you're able to get good quarterback play for either of those teams, for the most part, you can easily pencil in 6 or 7 wins, right?
Mhm.
Because typically those four teams have the better talent out of the East, right?
Mhm.
So if you pencil in good quarterback play from MSU, you're probably like, okay, they'll get to 6, 7 wins easy. But the other four, right? The other 4 or 5 games, like 4 or 5 games, yeah, 4 or 5 games, we got to go against the other big dogs in the East. That's where the rest of the team really comes into play and coaching really comes into play, right?
Mhm.
So no, I mean, I think it's very possible that with Peyton Thorne being back and his buddy Jalen Reed, that tandem that they got, that they could find themselves. We could find ourselves late October, mid October, early October, whenever the game's going to be between State and then Michigan, in another game that has a lot at stake, and once again, you're going to have to answer the bell. And not only do I believe we have to win to keep your season going in the right direction, I don't think that optically that you can go 0-3 versus Mel Tucker like that. I just don't. I
It
I, I
wouldn't
think it'd
look
be a
good.
disaster.
Yeah. Well, I looked up Michigan's schedule, and we talked about obviously they're out of conference, but first conference game is against Maryland, and then you have dreaded traveling to Iowa, which Dre, you know how difficult of a task
Hey
that
man,
is going
don't sleep in
at
playing it.
Iowa.
Don't sleep in playing against. I've seen Ohio State, the good old Buckeyes go and lose at Iowa before. So I mean, like it is not a cakewalk, dude. It's not.
Well, I what I'd say is Michigan does not have Wisconsin
Don't
this
tell
year as
Corey
far as
that.
the crossover game. Um, I mean, Nebraska, Rutgers. Yeah, I find it hard to see Michigan State having a better year than Michigan, a better record. Sorry, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, man, I just I can't like mentally for my mental stability, I can't take losing to them again. Not like that. Not like this. I can't. Um, they got to figure it out, man. I think I it'll be really interesting also see, like the energy that Michigan has when the first couple of weeks in the season. Is this a team that's coming off like kind of lackadaisical, or are they coming out destroying teams? Because look, there's no way to get around it. Their schedule is weak, extremely weak to start the season.
Hmm.
So, are they coming out versus Hawaii and Connecticut, and are they just are they absolutely squashing teams like just like and not in a gimmick, how can I put this, not in a like a safe way. I mean, like, whatever you want to do, okay, we're going to pass this drive, and we're going to be successful in our passing game, we're going to be successful in our running game. We're going to try different concepts defensively to kind of play around. Are we seeing guys step up? Are they getting off to a 4-0 start, and it's like, man, I'm seeing diversity in their attack, right? I'm seeing energy, I'm seeing the focus. That's what I really want to see, and I'm so interested to see how does Michigan handle, and this program handle for the first time in a very long time, success. They've had high expectations, but never success like this, right? And I know we have Ohio State fans here. Hello, so good to always have you guys here. Um, don't you look? You guys have the history, recent history. The respect I have for you, but I don't think it's safe for you guys to be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, now we're going to be ready and we're going to show you something. Okay, you can have that attitude if you want to as a fan. I hope that your guys aren't extremely cocky. I hope they're upset. They should be. I hope they're motivated. They should be. But for your sake, I hope they don't have the cockiness because that's what got them beat last November.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's the old age. Like you want to make sure that you're taking everybody serious and that you're dialed in and all that good stuff. But yeah, I just looking at Michigan schedule. I mean, you'd have to have a disaster of a year to have, to me, 3 losses. Looking at this, I mean, Maryland, uh, of course, yeah, we're just penciling it in, and it's not, nothing has happened yet. But Maryland, Indiana, I think you should beat Penn State. I think you should beat Michigan State. I think you should beat Rutgers, Nebraska, Illinois. So you're really talking about Ohio State and the dreaded Iowa game. I mean, even if you split those games, you're looking at a 1-loss season. I mean, yeah, you need to take care of business. You really, really need to take care of business. And I we'll see, but I'd like to think that Michigan will do that. But
I mean, dude, we can be 8-1, 7. Let me tell you. Let me. I'm gonna just say this now. We can be 7-1. We can be undefeated going into that MSU game, and if we lose, I am not going to be like, oh, all of our goals are still in front of us. No, I'm going to be hot, hot, hot. Okay, he better not lose.
Well, I think that was part of my role when that Michigan State game happened, because I remember you weren't very happy. You weren't happy, and I kind of kept the peace going. I kept the vision. Like, listen, everything you want still there. You just got to take care of business. Because I mean, at that point, I'm and I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I mean, we were thinking that they were gonna at least have a loss or two by that time. So, I think you just never
They
know.
were ahead. They were ahead of our expectations, Des. But I just I can't. I like I that feeling of just like seeing the Spartans celebrate. It makes me sick. I can't do it. I just, guys, please just take. You know what hurts? It hurts more when you know you're the better team.
Oh
When you
yes.
are the better team and you lose to your rival, it's. Oh, and I'm speaking to the choir for Ohio State. They're like, oh yeah, I know what that feels like. Whatever. It's it's a huge gut punch, and uh, yeah, it's like a broken record. I can't do it. Well, we haven't even started the season yet, and I'm already like, emotionally like there. Like I'm putting myself in that emotional seat where, I'm not going to be like very cheerful to deal with at that point in time because it's just, like that's the beauty and hard thing about these rivalry games is that after they're done, you have the huge build up, right? But after they're done, you have to wait 365 days to play it again,
And
right?
it's
Unless some
been
weird,
it's been
yeah.
2 years now for Michigan State. So it's a very difficult, because the year before Mel Tucker got there, Michigan beat Michigan State, right? That year.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's been a long time, but you just gotta, yeah. Like I said, I mean, this schedule for Michigan, but see, and now of course we're glossing over literally games, regular season games, but you look at the schedule that they have, and one could wonder about what that, have you really sharpened the iron, by the time you get to the college football playoff. Let's assume that they'll get there. That's a tough thing, because if you haven't, played the tough teams, and you haven't gone through the gauntlet, then are you really battle tested? Because we know once you get to the final four, it's elite teams. It's not just good football teams. It's elite teams. And if you're, in that 4 spot, or even 3 spot, I mean, it's difficult. Like, you can't, you can't think you're just gonna have a cakewalk in the regular season, and think you're gonna get to the playoff and just all of a sudden flip a switch. Like, we've seen that just doesn't happen. So it'll be interesting to see, as the season progresses, see how these teams shape out. Is Penn State gonna look better than they did a year before? Is Michigan State gonna be able to sustain what they've done, from last year? is Nebraska somehow going to just have all these close games? And that was wild last year. With Michigan and Nebraska, there was no business that that game should have been so close. But
Where did Adrian Martinez end up at?
not sure. Somewhere.
Southeast Missouri State. I'm
No,
guessing. Like I was just throwing out something
I was gonna
crazy.
say don't say. Let's see, where did he go to? Kansas State. So he's somewhere. We'll see. I'm
Ooh,
sure Kansas
Wildcat.
State is very excited to have him, but I think Kansas State's probably excited to have anybody. So
Yes.
no
Yeah.
disrespect to Kansas State
Beggars can't
fans.
be choosers. So I mean, like,
Right.
yeah, So yeah. Hey, I'm sure Kansas State Wildcat fans are calling up talking about Adrian Martinez turnover ratio. I don't think they're doing that. I think they're
No,
like, well, yeah.
this is
So
great.
this is
This
great.
it's their
You
JJ
know.
McCarthy. Like we got
No, 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 no.
Joe
It's their
Burrow.
Shea Patterson. No, it's their Shea Patterson because he's a transfer. Like, you know. All this right in the world. Hey, man, and they're watching his highlight table. Man, look at the dual threat. This dude's awesome. Can't believe he was in the transfer portal. Just wait and see. Um.
Oh man, that's
Anyway,
not very nice. I'm sorry to Adrian Martinez and his family. He's got parents, I'm sure, that probably don't like us talking about their son because
man, he'll be all right, man. He's a very look. I think he's a very talented guy. I
yeah,
think he's like raw talent. He is a dual threat. He has a nice arm. He's
hmm
athletic. He's just but you like
he's got to stop
a
turning the ball over.
non-starter.
It just
Right, a
it.
non-starter is turn the ball over. That's
Hmm.
just it. You mean at the you can be as talented as you want to, but when you are a turnover machine, not just every now and then. I mean, you are literally a turnover machine, and even worse, the worst timing of turnovers. Like in
Hmm.
crunch time, I can't trust you at all.
Right.
Right? Not just like in a think you're good for a fumble or a pick once a game. No, like in a fourth quarter, literally, I could pencil in Adrian is going to give us a costly possession, and we're going to have to figure out a way to get a stop or get the ball back.
It's hard to
Like,
live like that, man. It is very
yeah,
hard to live like that
it's
because
it's,
that's,
it's
that's the
just
thing. All interceptions, all turnovers are not created equal because,
no.
a fumble that the other team jumps on is very different than a fumble that turns into a scoop and score. Like that, those things are different. A interception in the first quarter is very different than an interception, mid fourth quarter, late fourth quarter when you got to have it. Like, so yeah, Adrian. Yeah, he's got to stop turning the ball over. Got to stop turning the ball over.
What a
Um,
sick joke it would be for like Nebraska fans that Adrian like just figures it out and just has like an incredible season. Can you imagine? Like, he just goes to
I mean,
Kansas State.
I could see Kansas State having it would be the Joe Burrow like LSU run. Like I could see them doing exactly that. Like
They're in the
going
Big
under.
12, right?
I'm just
Like,
kidding. Going 15 and
no,
no, just throttling everybody. Yeah,
no, but dude, like they're in the Big 12. Big 12 is not some like juggernaut. I mean, you got. This is Texas last year, I think. You got
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma
They're,
State
they're,
had a
they're-
good year last year.
Oklahoma State. Okay, fine. I may say honestly, out of Big 12, I'll put Oklahoma State number one. I don't know what Oklahoma's going to be now that Brent Variable's taken over. They're going to probably go to some kind of you know some kind of self-discovery phase, right? They don't have a quarterback. I don't know who their quarterback's going to
No, they
be.
got Gabriel from UCF. So
Oh,
he transferred from
UCF.
UCF. He went somewhere like USC maybe, and then uncommitted there, and then went to Oklahoma. So he's pretty good.
Great.
Dylan Gabriel, I think he's solid. Especially, I mean, it's like you said, it's the Big 12. So
Yeah. Well, anyway, look. Let's say Kansas State. I don't know why we're talking about Kansas State football, but I just want to get this thought out of my head. Let's say that he goes to Kansas State. They go 8-4. Adrian Martinez is like, he actually has a good season, and somehow gets drafted in the fifth round. And in the NFL. People are like, well, Nebraska fans are going. What I don't know. That I'll be sick. I'll be sick to my stomach. Now, as Michigan fans, we don't have to worry about that because we haven't been burnt like that. Shea Patterson's now playing for the Michigan Panthers, so he didn't get better once he left college. You know, he's
well, you
now in
never
the
know. Maybe he'll,
USFL.
be a 40 touchdown guy now. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, yeah. I
I
mean, his
mean,
golf
it would let our pro sports, at least we could win some kind of championship. So I will take a USFL world title or whatever it's going to be. National, I don't know, championship. I'll take it. So beggars can't be choosers because the Lions got a lot of work to do.
he has a lot of swag though. I can't wait to see how he dresses up in like in terms of the game. He'll get the spat, the white spat, probably some gloves, maybe a visor here. Shea gonna be spat. He gonna be swagged up during the game. So I'll be interested to see
He'll look good.
how he looks.
He'll look good. It'll be next month too. So April. So I'm excited to check him out. I don't know if they'll be on ESPN or NFL Network or ESPN Deportes. Who knows? But we'll see. We'll see. ESPN the Ocho. That's where the dodgeball, from the movie it was on. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. But as we wrap, wanted to encourage everybody to check us out on Spotify, the Dre and Des podcast. We just had an episode drop on I think I posted it Sunday. We recorded it Saturday. Yeah, but we appreciate everybody for tuning in, checking us out. Des screwed it up, and I put this on the main channel versus the Michigan channel. So next week, we'll be back on our normal channel. Minor logistics error, but everything's good. You got a chance to see our faces and chat with us, so we appreciate it.
Peace.
Peace.